Yeah, so welcome to Country Music News International. I have the pleasure this evening, well, it's evening for me, it's kind of
Oh,
early afternoon for the ladies here. This is a band called The Wilder Flower. And that's about all I know about you. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you, well, we'll start off with some of the silly questions. Who is who? Who plays what? Who does the singing mostly?
you want to go down the line?
Yeah, let's start on my left, your right.
Perfect. Glad y'all know your left from your right. So I'm Danielle Yother. I sing lead and harmony. We all sing lead and harmony. As far as instruments go, I play guitar mainly, and there's times I might play mandolin or octave mandolin. And we all write, so I have songs that I've written that are part of our repertoire. So, yeah. Danielle's a great flat picker. I don't know what YouTube video you saw, but we like to feature her on there. I'm Madeline Deeroff. I'm the fiddle player. Not a multi-instrumentalist so much in this band. And I also love singing harmony, and write some of our tunes and songs.
I'm Molly Johnson. I play Scruggs style banjo and clawhammer banjo, and I also write and sing.
Okay, I'm hastily scribbling all this down because otherwise I'll forget it later on. Um, how did you actually get together in the first place then?
The crazy story. How much time do you have? I'm just kidding. So Molly and we've kind of grown up in the same area, a funny little place called Pumpkin Town in South Carolina. It's legit. It's a place, and there's there's some cool jams and even some festivals that have gone on there, and we've grown up going to the same jams. Molly would go with her dad because her dad plays music, and she would just be running around when I was like 10 and I'd be playing guitar. So we always kind of knew of each other, I think. But we never really probably thought we'd be in a band together. And then Madeline, I actually met her there's a place called Hagood Mill. It's a grist mill in South Carolina, and they try to keep historical traditions of the area alive, and they have a lot of music and just different cultural celebrations there. And they had a fiddlers convention for the South Carolina State Fiddling Championship. Of course, I'm gonna have to say that Madeline won 2 times. And the first time that she won, she was probably like 18 or something. And I'm a tad bit older, but I remember there were a few people like around our age, and we jammed afterwards, and it was a lot of fun. And I don't know, I guess some time had passed and wanted to gig more, and I think that we were all kind of playing a little bit more maybe, and I just asked them both if they wanted to meet. They hadn't met yet, so we all met at Molly's house. And I don't know, we just started doing a bunch of little gigs after that and jamming, and it's just kind of become a really fun, good artistic thing for us. So
So, how long has this band then been in existence?
it'll be 3 years this summer, right? Yeah. But when we first started, you could hardly call us a band, so it's been a ramp up into
Okay.
playing seriously together. Yeah.
Yeah, because you all look incredibly young to me, but that's because I'm incredibly old. But
No, not true. Yeah, we have a little age gap between us, but we sort of span high school, college, and post grad. So
okay.
we are pretty young.
So let me ask you some stuff sort of individually. Let's start with Molly. Get my notes here. So, what brought you to playing the banjo?
My family, my dad plays fiddle, and my sister also plays fiddle, so I'd follow them to different festivals and competitions, and old time and bluegrass. So I'd been around banjo my whole life. And then when I was old enough to be in the YAMS program, which is Young Appalachian Musicians, you get to pick a bluegrass instrument to learn after school. And so I decided to pick the banjo. And
Okay.
I was in the after school program for a while. And then now I teach in that after school program. And it's been really great.
Anyway, so let's move on. Let's get to Madeline and the fiddle. Why the fiddle?
It's such a good question. And I had an interview this morning where I was asked that and I thought about it for like 45 seconds. So luckily I'm prepared now. So in Brevard, I think I didn't realize how lucky I was to grow up where I grew up. I mean, similarly to both of them until I got old enough to move away. But growing up, I knew probably 20 to 30 people who were full-time professional musicians, which I think is pretty unique in such a small area. And the coolest of them played the fiddle.
Okay.
And so I also have somewhat musical parents, and they were like, you need to learn piano or guitar first. That's just the way it's done. And it like neither would stick. I wouldn't do it. And finally, there's a band in the area called the Steep Canyon Rangers, who are kind of our hometown heroes. And their former fiddle player agreed to give me some lessons. And my parents were like, fine. And so I took like 2 lessons from her, and they just immediately stuck. And then I also was remembering I had an experience in 3rd grade where my 3rd grade class did a talent show, and I didn't have a talent. And so I like did something silly, and I was like, we have to fix this issue. If there's another talent show, I need to have a talent. And so that was when I like started practicing, because I was like, I have to be good enough to do this. That's true. That is the truth about it. But yeah, I think I just always thought the fiddle was really cool, and I don't know why exactly, but it was a magnetic attraction for me.
Okay, so we've had the banjo, we've had the fiddle, and let's get on to obviously the most important instrument of all, the guitar. And Daniela.
Well, so thinking back, I wasn't really like, the guitar wasn't super compelling for me, to be honest, which is not a great thing to admit, but I think my first experiences are probably like one of the first little notepads that I got as a kid. I started writing songs, and it just like funny little songs. And then my aunt had some Martina McBride CDs that she didn't want. And so those were the first CDs I ever had. And I had this little CD player, so I was like, okay. And so I would like perform Martina's songs like in my bedroom. And but that was just my early on. I really liked the singing part and the performing and the writing. And I was in the same program that Molly was in, the Young Appalachian Musician program. My dad brought the paper to me, and I guess I must have picked guitar. And for every like songwriter, singer-songwriter, for obvious reasons, like guitar seems like a good choice. And I did not pay attention the whole year. I don't think I said a word. And the last day, the teacher was like, hey, what's something you might want to do? He asked everyone if they wanted lessons over the summer. And somehow I was the only one that raised my hand, even though I totally was just zoned out most of the time. And I think I picked like Shady Grove, this old song, and we went and I started singing it. And that's when I kind of fell in love of like, oh, this is cool. Like just little steps, like going to jam sessions and things like that, where you're just kind of being friends with the community around you, and you sort of pick up things from them, and it's like, oh, I can play the guitar. Oh, guitar is actually kind of fun, and it's not too boring. And, it's just all these little steps from a really supportive community and really generous elders and younger people in our area. So it's been a very awesome thing that is just kind of divinely just there. So I'm glad I've been able to be a part of this and, see where we go with it.
Let's go back to your music, actually. So I found quite a lot of clips and videos and stuff like that when I was kind of doing my research. What I didn't really find were recordings.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about recording music, creating your own music.
Yeah, we're all making eyes at each other because our producers like stop talking about it so much. But we're working on our first album of all but one, maybe one or two tracks, our originals of ours. From each of the three of us. We have a pretty even contribution to it, which is really cool. And it's sort of our sound coming out of our original music. I don't know, you have some more eloquent things to say about it than I do, probably.
I just make stuff up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's interesting because both Danielle and Molly really grew up playing bluegrass. But as we've developed our sound together, we've strayed a little farther away from bluegrass. It's sort of, I guess, just Americana-ish, but roots and folk and yeah.
It's kind of cool because you can hear like the influences kind of come together. Like Madeline's got a really strong like old time tie, and then of course Molly plays three-finger Earl Scruggs, but then her dad's also like an old time fiddler and knows all his stuff. And then I'm just over in the left field, like I flat pick and stuff, but I listen to a lot of country music and other things that probably aren't acceptable. But yeah, it's just kind of cool because it is just this little melting pot of our little worlds. And it's neat too because it's still rooted to our area and what we've kind of been fed like growing up musically. So it's just sort of a conversation, like it's an expression of our area and just our take on things. So
yeah, and it's really cool. Like we've gotten to really dive into like the lyrics and how we want the music of each song to align with the lyrics and the meaning of them. And so I feel like I've gotten a better sense of sort of what both of y'all have to express in your song. But it's really cool. Like Danielle was saying, we had a show last night and she was talking about capturing the sound of like being young women growing up in Appalachia in the 21st century and sort of like the mix of old and new and what that can sound like. And I think all of us in different ways. Like Molly has a really cool song that'll be on our record eventually. And it's just her and her banjo like interacting. And it's really cool and it sounds old, like kind of Ola Belle Reed and her generation. And so yeah, there's a lot of different influences, but I think it sort of weaves together really nicely.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to say thanks very much for taking the time to speak to us over here. So I'm going to wish you all the best for 2024 and onwards, of course. Okay, so I will wave you goodbye and say farewell.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.